Picture this. You are a moderately fit adult human being. No weapons, no tools, no rocks, no sticks, no conveniently placed anything. Just you, your body, whatever your ancestors gave you genetically, and an open field. And standing across that field is an animal. Just one animal. The question is, do you win? Most people, when they actually sit with this scenario, realize with creeping discomfort that the honest answer for the vast majority of animals is somewhere between absolutely not and please don't find out. Humans have spent so long at the top of the food chain, insulated by technology and social organization and weapons sophisticated enough to kill things from distances that make personal combat irrelevant, that there's a tendency to forget how physically unimpressive the base human unit actually is. No claws, no venom, no armor, no meaningful speed advantage over most things that might want to eat you. Teeth that could generously be described as disappointing in a confrontational context. But here's the thing, ancient humans, specifically Homo sapiens operating in Paleolithic conditions, before agriculture, before metallurgy, with access to the tools their era provided, were not the soft, sedentary creatures most people imagine when they picture early humans. These were individuals who walked enormous distances daily, carried heavy loads, processed carcasses with their hands, and lived in genuine, ongoing relationship with predators and prey alike. Their physical baselines were substantially different from the average modern person's, and they won, repeatedly, consistently, against things that should have killed them more often than the fossil record suggests they did. So the real question isn't whether ancient humans were capable of prevailing against animals. They clearly were. Otherwise, you wouldn't exist. The question is, which animals, under what conditions, using what methods, and crucially, what does the answer tell us about what kind of creature an ancient human actually was? Establish the baseline first, because it matters enormously for everything that follows. An adult male Homo sapiens in Paleolithic conditions, mid-20s experienced hunter-gatherer, living a physically demanding subsistence lifestyle, would have had a body composition radically different from the modern average. Estimates of body fat percentage and muscularity in populations living traditional subsistence lifestyles, which serve as the closest available analog, suggest lean body mass well above modern Western averages, with strength-to-weight ratios that would be considered exceptional by contemporary fitness standards. Not because ancient humans were superhuman, but because the lifestyle that kept them alive demanded it. Add to that a grip strength from a life of climbing, carrying, tool-making, and wrestling prey, and you have hands that can exert force substantially beyond what modern sedentary humans typically produce. Walking 10 to 15 kilometers daily across varied terrain produces leg strength and cardiovascular endurance that modern gym programs struggle to replicate. And ancient humans possessed something that pure physical measurement often undersells: procedural expertise. These were people who had been observing, tracking, and confronting animals since childhood. They understood animal behavior, movement patterns, threat signals, and vulnerabilities in ways that no modern person without extensive wildlife experience can access from abstract knowledge alone. This context matters because the question of which animals ancient humans could beat isn't just a physics problem. It's a problem that includes psychology, expertise, strategy, and the critical variable of whether the ancient human was alone or operating as part of a coordinated group, which was almost never not the case in actual Paleolithic life. Start at the bottom of the threat spectrum, where the wins are clear and worth establishing as a foundation. Rabbits, hares, and similar small prey animals are an obvious category, but the manner of winning against them reveals something important. A healthy adult rabbit at full sprint reaches speeds of around 50 to 70 kilometers per hour. A human, even an elite sprinter, tops out at roughly 45. You are not outrunning a panicked rabbit in a straight line. You are losing that race badly, and the rabbit has already forgotten you exist. But ancient humans didn't chase rabbits in straight lines. They used traps, snares, nets, coordinated drives, and throwing weapons with a sophistication that turned the speed disadvantage irrelevant. The capacity to manufacture tools that extend capability beyond raw physicality is the fundamental human competitive advantage. And in the small prey category, it produces comprehensive dominance. Paleolithic sites contain abundant evidence of small mammal exploitation: bones, cut marks, hearth deposits, suggesting that small prey formed a significant portion of ancient human diet, secured through methods that made physical confrontation essentially unnecessary. In a pure hands scenario, a determined adult human absolutely wins against most small mammals mammals through superior grip, leverage, and the capacity to maintain control of a struggling animal that lacks the mass to overcome a firm hold. This is unambiguous. Move up the size scale to medium-sized animals, and the picture becomes more interesting. Wild boar are a frequently cited benchmark in discussions of unarmed human combat with animals, and for excellent reason, they represent a dangerous opponent that ancient humans definitely encountered and had to manage. Adult wild boar reach weights of 80 to 100 kilograms, can run at speeds of 40 kilometers per hour, and possess tusks capable of producing deep, lacerating wounds to legs, abdomen, and any limb that ends up in the wrong position. A surprised or cornered boar is not a passive participant in the encounter. Could an ancient human beat a wild boar unarmed? Possible, against a smaller individual with the right approach. Controlling the head, avoiding the tusks, applying sustained pressure to vulnerable anatomy. But the realistic casualty probability in that encounter is high, and any ancient human who was regularly fighting boars without weapons was either extraordinarily skilled or building up an impressive collection of scar tissue. The more accurate ancient human strategy for boar was a sharpened wooden spear, and with that tool, the calculation changes completely. Suddenly you have reach, you have a force multiplier, and you can target the animal at a distance that keeps its tusks away from your legs. The spear is important here because it was available to ancient humans. Wooden spears predate Homo sapiens, Neanderthals, and earlier Homo heidelbergensis produced them. By the Paleolithic, Homo sapiens was using hafted stone-tipped spears with aerodynamics and penetration characteristics far beyond a simple sharpened stick. With these tools, medium-sized prey and adversarial animals shifted from dangerous encounters to managed risks requiring skill, but offering reasonable survival odds to experienced individuals. Medium-sized wild canids, wolves being the primary example, are another interesting case. An adult wolf weighs 40 to 80 kilograms, moves faster than any human, and possesses a bite force of around 1,500 newtons. A single wolf versus a single unarmed human is a threatening matchup. But wolves, like most large predators, are risk-averse. They kill to eat, not to fight. A prey animal that fights back effectively, that causes injury to the wolf, which can be life-threatening in the wild where injury means inability to hunt, is a prey animal the wolf recalculates on. Ancient humans carrying even primitive weapons, moving in groups, and demonstrating willingness to counterattack would have represented a risk-benefit calculation that most individual wolves would decline. Ancient human conflict with wolves likely resolved not through brawls, but through deterrence. The medium-large category is where ancient human strategy becomes visibly ingenious, because the animals in this range are large enough to be dangerous to individual humans, but also large enough to be worth the risk as prey. Deer species, red deer, elk, caribou, represent animals that ancient humans hunted consistently across enormous geographic ranges. An adult bull elk stands nearly 2 meters at the shoulder, weighs up to 400 kilograms, and carries antlers that can span 2 meters. A bull elk during the rut is specifically not in the mood to be trifled with and will actively charge perceived threats. Under normal circumstances, no unarmed human is winning a direct confrontation with an elk in peak condition. But ancient humans rarely sought direct confrontation for exactly this reason. The persistence hunting strategy, following prey at a jog through heat until thermal exhaustion collapses the animal, converted the enormous size and speed advantage of large prey into irrelevance. The animal's strength becomes meaningless if it can't regulate its body temperature fast enough to sustain flight. The human just keeps walking. Given enough time, given the right terrain and ambient temperature, a large deer species loses the endurance contest against a focused human every time. At the moment of collapse, the animal is already exhausted and thermoregulatorily compromised. The human dispatches it with a spear, a stone, or whatever is available. The encounter is over. The human didn't beat the elk in a fight. The human turned the contest into one the elk wasn't designed to win, and then closed it when the elk had nothing left. This is perhaps the most distinctly human competitive adaptation in the animal kingdom. Not raw superiority in any single physical parameter, but the ability to choose which competition happens and design conditions that favor human strengths. Endurance over speed, coordination over individual power, tools over teeth, strategy over instinct. The large predator category is where the analysis gets philosophically uncomfortable, because these are the animals that hunted ancient humans as well, and the relationship was bidirectional in ways that shaped human psychology in permanent ways. Lions, the apex predator of the African savanna, the environment where most of human evolutionary history played out. An adult male lion weighs up to 200 kilograms, runs at 80 kilometers per hour in short bursts, possesses retractable claws capable of holding and bringing down prey vastly larger than a human, and a bite force designed to suffocate animals significantly bigger than you. An adult lion versus a single unarmed human is not a fight. It is a brief, traumatic, one-sided event. But ancient humans and lions coexisted in the same environment for hundreds of thousands of years, and neither went extinct. That coexistence required management. Ancient humans competed with lions for prey, sometimes directly. Documented cases of groups of humans driving lions off kills using noise, fire, and numbers exist in both the ethnographic record and archaeological inference. Groups of humans with fire were a deterrent even to lions. Fire is a remarkable equalizer in predator-prey dynamics because it represents something almost no non-human animal has learned to not fear. A group of 20 humans with burning torches screaming at a lion over a carcass is a very different proposition from a lone human on the savannah at night. Individual unarmed humans versus lions? The human loses. This is not a contest. Ancient humans knew this and survived through group behavior, fire, and eventually weapons sophisticated enough to kill a lion at range. The ancient human win condition against lions was never, let's fist fight the lion. It was, let's be 12 people with spears and let's coordinate. By the way, if you want to go even deeper into the secret lives of ancient humans, I just launched a full course called The Secret Lives of Ancient Humans. 10 modules, 3+ hours of content, covering everything we never talk about on YouTube. What they feared, how they communicated, what hunted them, and much more. Plus an exclusive PDF guide included. Link in the description. See you inside. Hyenas deserve specific mention because they're frequently underestimated and represent a persistent threat that ancient humans navigated successfully for hundreds of thousands of years. Spotted hyenas are not scavengers who occasionally hunt. They are apex predators who occasionally scavenge, with bite forces exceeding those of lions, extraordinary endurance, and complex social intelligence. A clan of spotted hyenas is a genuinely formidable force. Ancient humans and hyenas competed for the same caves, the same carcasses, and potentially the same territories, and the evidence suggests that humans progressively dominated that competition as group coordination and tool use matured. The specific win condition against hyenas was probably similar to lions: group size, fire, noise, and weapons. Not individual hand-to-hand dominance, because no individual human hand-to-hand dominates a spotted hyena, which can bite through bone as a routine dietary activity. Bears present a category that varies enormously depending on species, and the analysis is worth separating out. Brown bears, the species ancient humans in Europe and Asia would have encountered most regularly, are an extraordinary physical specimen. Adult males in prime condition reach weights of 300 to 600 kilograms, possess foreleg strength capable of generating strikes with enough force to kill large prey instantly, and combine it with a speed that reaches 50 kilometers per hour. A brown bear versus a single, unarmed human is a catastrophic mismatch. Brown bears are also, importantly, generally conflict-averse with large groups of humans. The bear's primary motivation is caloric, finding enough food to survive. An encounter with a group of humans that involves injury risk to the bear is an encounter the bear would prefer to avoid. Archaeological evidence of bear exploitation by ancient humans is extensive. Cave bear bones with cut marks, bear remains in ancient campsites, evidence of hunting across multiple prehistoric cultures. Bears were hunted. They were also clearly feared and probably venerated, given the frequency with which bear skulls appear in symbolic arrangements at Paleolithic sites. The ancient human win against bears involved persistence, weapons, and preferably catching the bear in a situation where its advantages were reduced, in a trap against a terrain feature already injured or facing coordinated group attack from multiple directions simultaneously, which prevents the bear from focusing its defense. Solo unarmed human versus bear is not a scenario that ancient humans sought and survived routinely. It's a scenario that ancient humans avoided through intelligence and then managed through coordination when avoidance failed. The category that reveals the most about ancient human capability is the large prey animals, Megafauna, because these were not animals ancient humans avoided. They hunted them, woolly mammoths. Animals that stood up to 4 meters at the shoulder and weighed up to 6 tons, covered in dense fur equipped with curved tusks up to 4 meters long, and possessed of a temperament that, when threatened, produced a response involving several tons of moving mass directed at whatever was causing the problem. By any reasonable individual combat metric, a woolly mammoth is not something a human should be able to kill, and yet ancient humans killed them, repeatedly, across multiple continents. The evidence is unambiguous. Mammoth remains at Paleolithic sites show butchery marks, spear point injuries, and site contexts consistent with cooperative hunting rather than simple scavenging. Drive hunting, coordinating groups of humans to steer animals toward terrain features like cliffs, bogs, or narrow valleys where their mobility was compromised and their vulnerability maximized, was almost certainly a primary strategy. A mammoth in a bog, struggling against the terrain, facing multiple spear-wielding humans attacking from the sides and rear, is a fundamentally different opponent from a mammoth in open ground. The win condition against Megafauna was always environmental manipulation combined with coordinated group attack. Ancient humans turned the landscape into a weapon and used social coordination to multiply individual capacity by a factor that overcame any size differential. This is, incidentally, the same basic strategy that modern militaries use: force multiplication through technology and coordination rather than individual physical dominance. The extinction of large megafauna across multiple continents that correlates temporally with the arrival of human populations in those ecosystems is the most macroscopic evidence of how effectively ancient humans won against large animals. The animals didn't know what ancient humans were until it was too late to adapt behaviorally. By the time the prey species' behavioral responses could evolve in response to the new predator, the population was already under pressure that outpaced evolutionary adaptation. There are specific animals that ancient humans would have reliably won against, even in something approaching direct confrontation, and analyzing these reveals the specific physical and strategic capacities that ancient humans possessed. Baboons are worth examining carefully. Large male baboons weigh up to 40 kilograms, possess canine teeth up to 5 centimeters long, substantially larger, proportionally, than human canines, and are aggressive, fast, and physically powerful for their size. A large male baboon is not something to casually dismiss, but Paleolithic humans coexisted with baboons across the African continent, and the ethnographic record of traditional human-baboon conflict suggests that humans, particularly in groups, consistently dominated those encounters. Direct confrontation with rocks, sticks, and coordinated group behavior puts baboons at disadvantage against even a modest group of determined humans. Individual, unarmed versus large male baboon, genuinely dangerous and uncertain, with the outcome depending heavily on specifics. But with even a single rock or stick as a force multiplier, an adult human's advantages in reach, leverage, and strategic thinking make the outcome more predictable. The human's capacity to use the environment to pick up whatever is available is itself an adaptation that shifts the calculation. Ancient humans were never truly unarmed because the environment itself was a toolkit for anyone intelligent enough to read it that way. Large snakes are another category worth addressing because they appear in the popular imagination as terrifying and in the practical ancient human experience as dangerous but manageable with the right approach. A large constrictor, a rock python or reticulated python, can reach lengths of 5 to 7 meters and weights of up to 100 kilograms and kills by coiling and tightening until the prey cannot breathe. The attack is slow enough relative to a large mammal that the window for counteraction exists. Ancient humans with cutting tools or even strong grips targeting the head and neck of a snake that hasn't yet secured a full coil have a meaningful chance of winning that encounter. More importantly, ancient humans with the observation skills to spot and avoid large snakes before entering striking range had the best strategy of all. Aquatic encounters deserve brief acknowledgement because rivers, lakes, and coastlines were part of the ancient human resource landscape, and the animals in those environments represented specific threat profiles. Hippopotamuses, encountered by ancient humans across sub-Saharan Africa, are statistically among the most dangerous large animals a human can encounter, and this was as true 100,000 years ago as it is now. A hippo's semi-aquatic lifestyle, territorial aggression, and capacity to bite through a small boat make direct confrontation in water essentially unsurvivable for an individual human. Ancient humans avoided hippos where possible and hunted them time, there is archaeological evidence of hippo exploitation through methods that kept humans out of the water and used weapons capable of penetrating the hide from range. The honest answer for hippos is ancient humans won sometimes, at significant risk, using coordinated group hunting and weapons, and avoided them the rest of the time. Crocodiles represent a similar category: lethal in water, more manageable on land, and something ancient humans developed extensive knowledge of through the accumulated expertise of populations living adjacent to riverine environments for tens of thousands of years. The human win against crocodiles was almost always either avoidance or weapons, not direct physical confrontation. What the full picture reveals is that ancient humans won against animals across an extraordinary size range, from small rodents to 6-ton megafauna, through a combination of physical capability, tool use, coordination, environmental manipulation, and cognitive strategy that no other animal on Earth was applying at the same level of sophistication. The human win condition was almost never stronger, faster, more dangerous than the other animal. It was almost always smarter, better organized, and capable of designing the specific contest that favored human advantages. Against small animals, those advantages made direct conflict trivial. Against medium animals, weapons shifted the danger calculus dramatically. Against large prey, coordination and environmental exploitation converted size and strength advantages into irrelevance. Against apex predators, fire, numbers, and weapons sufficient to deter or kill at range turned a prey species into a threat. Ancient humans were not physically dominant. They were cognitively dominant, and cognitive dominance in a physical world is, over time, absolute. Every animal that ancient humans couldn't beat in direct confrontation eventually encountered humans in coordinated groups with tools, and the outcome of those encounters is written into the archaeological record in bone deposits, extinction events, and the persistent wariness that large predators still show toward groups of humans today. The animal that ancient humans struggled most consistently to beat wasn't the largest, strongest, or most venomous. It was the one smart enough to avoid the conditions humans were trying to create. The wolf that wouldn't come within spear range, the crocodile that stayed in the river, the lion that circled the firelight but didn't enter it. The arms race between human cognitive strategy and animal behavioral flexibility is the oldest competitive dynamic in hominin history. Ancient humans won it comprehensively enough to still be here, building fires and asking questions about the animals they once shared the world with, which is, when you think about it, the most human win condition of all.